Okay, if you're like me, it's a little easier to remove the entire airbox out of the vehicle, including the elbow and the plastic connector that connects the airbox to the elbow. Take it all apart, clean it, or at least wipe it down, get some of the residual oil out from inside, from the breather tube and any of that, if you can, just to kind of clean it up. My car has about 230,000 kilometers, roughly 150,000 miles. So it's starting to run a little weird at around 1,800 to 2,000 RPM under very light load on flat surfaces. It tends to misfire, so I do have a code for the O2 sensor, but I figured this would be a nice, easy, cheap $30 potential clean to at least get it to run a little nicer. So pretty simple. Grab that thing out of there. In order to take it out, first of all, yank out the airbox out of these. It's just stuck into these little things here. You can yank that out, undo the elbow, remove the clips here for your sensing lines, breather, and your MAF circuit connector, I guess if you want to call it. You can remove that, clean that up if you want. That's the bottom of the airbox. The bolts holding this little elbow to that airbox are 8 mils, and the bolts holding the MAF are T20s, Torx 20s. So once you got that out, it's pretty simple. Put down a rag if you don't want your shop to be dirty, or the road, or whatever you're using, and simply spray into it. You can read the instructions on the back. It's pretty clear. Clean the connectors if you'd like to. It does evaporate pretty quick, almost like brake cleaner, so you don't have to worry about it being too wet. Do let it dry for probably a few minutes. Oh, I should probably not do that. For a few minutes, and then we put it back together. Putting it back together is kind of just reverse order, and should be good to go. Okay, once you've sprayed the inside of it, you're happy with the result. There's no more fluid in there. It's dry. You want to install it back into the housing here. There is only one way that it will fit, and the bolts will line up that way. If you flip it the other way, you'll notice it's a little bit of a weird fit. So back to 180 degrees you go. Normally just put those in by hands, just so I don't cross thread. Take my little drill. This doesn't need to be crazy tight, just nice and snug. And then I just go, little tiny little, there we go, good enough. You can slide this on first. Make sure you remember the clamps. Put the clamp on, slide it on, slide the elbow on, push the clamp back down. Same with the front here. Otherwise, you'll have it all together and go, shit, I've forgotten a clamp. So make sure you do that, and make sure they're orientated in an easily accessible area so that you can get a screwdriver or whatever you're using to tighten those up in there. When you're tightening down these 8 mil bolts, there's one down below here and the other is right above here. Don't need to crush them in. It's plastic, it's a metal bolt. You don't want to strip it. It's the last thing you want to do, really. I keep everything fairly loose for now. You can see it's still a little bit of movement. That's just so I can get the air filter in. Okay, now air filter time. It might be easier to pull it up and out. Attempt to slide in. So kind of push it at an angle this way, and then slowly kind of work it in. There's an edge right here. I don't know if you can see that. I should probably take a look. Yeah, you can. So if you can, slide that in there. If you use the top of the airbox cover, then you will need it to slide in there to create a good seal. I don't, because I'm a racer, and so be it. Plus I threw away the cover a long time ago, like the idiot I am. Next, you can slowly tighten everything back up. Okay, so I've tightened up the bottom clamp. You want to keep it about 1/8 of an inch, maybe 5 mils away from the end of it, so that you don't cut it or get an improper seal. You also don't need to crank it down, just enough so that it doesn't move and you don't think any air will get by. This isn't forced induction, or this engine has no forced induction, so it's not like it's going to see a ton of air trying to pass by it. Top clamp, same thing, about you know, a quarter of a fingernail, if you will, and just tighten her up. Don't need to crank down on it. This probably will be a lot easier for you guys if you're using a stock setup. This makes my life absolutely horrid when I'm trying to do this type of stuff. But I figured I would put a video out there because I haven't seen anybody with an aftermarket elbow trying to do this type of thing. So I figured if you need tips and tricks, maybe this will help. Next up, I'm going to finish up tightening the housing, the airbox housing to this little MAF housing, and then that should actually just tighten everything up. Following that, I'm gonna put the lines back. You can't really mess them up. If you haven't, messed around with them, they'll just slide on and click. It should be good to go. I find also that if you keep this loose and you're able to pull out the airbox while you're putting in the filter, it's a lot easier to get it in there. And at the same time, when you tighten these bolts, you actually bring it and kind of force it into this filter without having to screw around with it. Otherwise, this little flange here sticks out really far, and it's kind of a pain in the ass to try to slide the filter in there and get it within its grooves right here for the airbox. So next, just go into here, put that bad boy in there. Connector's clean on the inside at least, same with this one. Push it down, red tab down, quick little pull check. Same thing with this. This is just a push down and click. Good to go. This one, similar. Just have to kind of fight with it. There we go. And it's in. Make sure she doesn't go anywhere. That's good, that's good. Other than that, it's a fairly simple thing to do. Just a little time consuming, a little bit of fiddling. Hope you have a good day. Cheers.